winning game one. Let's see what comes out of the hat, because for WE, I will say that maybe things change up after the failure that was game one.
The critical difference here is that OMG is not banning away Azir. So that means that WE could actually just put Shanks back onto a control mage. That's much more comfortable for him. And I like this difference here. They are saying, I think WE agrees with us. Tier 1 is definitely not Udyr. Not on 11.5. It should be Hecarim.
It really should be. I mean, Udyr might still come in as the response. We'll see if Arky wants to pull it up in the matchup, or if we diversify a little bit again, right? We have seen that Skarner actually took a bit of a nerf. I think it was in 11.4. So whether he goes back to something like that, that can be the supportive member for OMG.
Skarner nerf wasn't actually that bad. He loses about 110 HP at level 18, which, you know, isn't great, but not overall terrible. But I do think you have to play the combo with something like a Thresh, so it's a little bit more limiting in terms of what you can do with it. Now, OMG are just going to answer back with very standard tier list picks. I think Cold, if you give him his Alistar, this man is absolutely disgusting. He's going to be very, very strong. And the Udyr pick comes in as well. Now, I do think Udyr in general is going on a bit of a downward trend. His win rate is still very, very high. But you do see that the way he plays is skirmish early game, and he does want to take away farms from the enemy team. You don't really get that much out of the experience. And on 11.5, the nerfs to Phoenix are actually felt a lot more, especially in the early game. And now WE, wow, this is gonna be fun. We are gonna get the Jinx plus Thresh matchup. This is the duo, sorry. Jinx plus Thresh is pretty much tied together in the LCK drafts that we have seen, and it really allows Jinx to use some of her abilities in lane. A lot of times Jinx's biggest weakness is she really only has that Q. The rest of the two abilities, they don't really land. But if you have a Thresh, you can flay people onto Flame Choppers.
Clement, you talked about both these picks, man. We have a Varus coming up, and if anyone didn't tune into our opening segment, we mentioned Jinx being buffed in 11.3, of course health being restored in 11.4, but for Varus, the mana immune power changes. Varus looking real good in solo queue, and here's our, not our first one in the LPL, but our first one on 11.5.
You now get 2.7 of your max mana per spell cast that hits people, and Varus costs a lot. You're gonna get 3 procs from QE, R, and then also it has your auto attacks also just do actually on everything you just get +6 bonus AD as well. So it's a massive buff for Varus just from Mura mana, and then his Q also got an execution buff. The Q execution buff, I think a lot of people are sleeping on. It's a 60% buff compared to what it used to be. So that's actually incredibly massive, and I want to see how this lane actually plays out. I do think Varus should be favored in the Jinx lane for the early game. And OMG, once again, I love this from their draft. They're targeting out Shanks, and they take away the Azir plus Cassiopeia. Once again, Shanks cannot play his usual control mages.
That's right, control being the key word. I mean, Shanks off of some of his favorites, and the fact is, good scaling elements to pilot alongside. We might just go ahead and put the, I guess, the spanner back down, right? We saw the Zoe versus LeBlanc from the other end. Let's see if Shanks is willing to play something that can duel, or if he just puts back to, I guess, something that's a bit more passive.
He could just go for the Victor. That's a very safe champion here. But it does lose priority against the Zoe.
Oh, we forgot this.
Rise?
Everfrost bans, remember, buffs, remember? Everfrost on Rise, one of the key users. We're going to see that here from Shanks. A lot of clearing coming through. There's actually a lot of wave clear in this comp already, Clement. And from mid to 80 carry, scaling already good too.
I do like the Rise pick here a lot. It's an alternative win condition in the late game. You have 1-3-1 coming out from WE, and you have a defensive support. Usually what we're missing in the meta right now is people don't draft that many defensive supports, making 1-3-1 rather difficult to play. But they have the comp this time around. We're just going to see how Shanks actually does in a side lane. Not his typical position. Haven't really seen him do well into it. And please give it to me. New on the Jax.
Hey.
This is super interesting. Jax got a huge buff this patch. We didn't think it would be relevant, but his AD growth went up by 0.9 per level. So that means in late game, yeah, it actually offsets all of the nerfs to Trinity Force, and he still gets that attack speed going in.
Dude, game 1 was like, it's still 11.3. Game 2 is a complete flip of like These picks are like, welcome to 11.5, baby. It's up to you, Clement. Start running me through these drafts because I want to talk about WE first. You have a lot of scaling. You have a lot of side laning to play through with this comp as well.
WE are going for 1-3-1 in the late game. Again, I think this is a rather slow composition. You're not going to expect a lot of early action. And if you look at their matchups, there's a lot of matchups that are not traditionally great into their opponents. Varus should be able to take out Jinx in the laning phase. He does have better clear with that piercing arrow. And on the other hand, Jax has also been known as an old counter to Aurelia. So we will see how this goes out. Aurelia a lot of times has to use auto attacks. That's the majority of her damage. So if that does not go well into Counter-Strike. So it's interesting to see. I think this is a draft that if you just look at it solely from the blue side, it looks great. It's like, oh, you got scaling, you got 1-3-1, you got all these different win conditions. And then you look at the actual matchups, and that's where it becomes really hard. I actually think OMG have a very decent chance of just overrunning WE in the late game and not even having to worry about split push.
Well, even with things like the Jinx they're going up against, even with the scaling we see from WE, you look at OMG still with the way their comp's set up and think they can match late game.
Late game for me is a bit tricky. I would give late game, I do think W have the better late game composition. Just with Ryze, Relmorph, there's a lot more you can do. Hecarim's always a great engage, and if you have a great engage like Hecarim that provides you with Unstoppable, it's very difficult for these poke compositions to actually disengage. I don't think that's the viable strategy in the late game, even with the Alistar, but they might not have to play late game. Last game was less than 30.
That's true, and hey, you got a Varus. You talked about poke. That's a key word I see here for OMG. Ladies and gentlemen, picks are completely different. If anyone's watching the LCK, tell them to put themselves in the bin and get over here. Because we have a Ryze, a Jinx, there's Aurelia top, Jax is back, there's a Varus for God's sake. Dude, League was getting a little bit stale, let's be quite honest. When we've seen 11.3 so many times, we're like, oh my god, it's a Hecarim this time. Exciting. Like now we're like, nah man, dude, there's a Jinx again. We've got a Jinx Thresh bottom lane. We've got a poke lane here from Eric and Cold. Clement, I want to start dissecting this as we go through, as almost trading there from Wooming. We're going to talk about rune choices coming in. Everything pretty standard, but note that we mentioned the Varus on 11.5 and what it's going to be, which is Eric with Comet. We have a poke Varus who we're expecting to see the Manamune from.
Yeah, this is definitely going to build coming out from him. We have been seeing mainly Duskblade of Drakthar first item. You get that extra ability haste, and with the Boots of Lucidity, it gives you massive amounts of cooldown. You can just keep on spamming your Q, and it also really helps with the W as well. The W cooldown is actually static 40 seconds, so any cooldown you can get onto it really, really helps out. It's a bit surprising in the trade as we see Jomong just being able to utilize the advantage of Thresh level 1 to get the shove in, but this in the later levels should still favor Varus a little bit.
Yeah, when we get towards that level 3, right, when he has the W to add on to Q as well, let's not forget, we talked about the buffs there, especially when you're talking percentages, you're going to expect towards mid-game as well, at the very least, as Aki moving towards the mid lane. Shanks is too. Wooming is as well. Flash available. Shanks might have to burn it. Aki first, though, as the Trouble Bubble connects to Paddlestar. Flushed away in the end by Shanks. Bei Shang on the back end as well. This horse, of course, wants to get involved, and Wooming just survives. Holding onto his flash by Breathe is here. Irelia with a flawless duet. Where did he come from? He'll get stunned down, but Breathe flashes. He wants the reset, and he finds it. Irelia for first blood in this game.
Yeah, really well done by Breathe to roam down there and just cut off Aki's pathing there. In the bot lane,
we're not done because Ignite's going down. Cold getting low. This is a Jinx who's about to go into Q. One more auto attack will do it, and Jomong gets a kill while Eric is trying to chase. The Hail of Arrows doesn't work out. Jomong's at max stacks on Q as well. Gets the zap down, wants to get the other kill, but the flash away from Eric will keep him alive. And WE this early game is all about them.
Absolute disaster from the bot lane. What a great death sentence coming out from Missing. Goes through the minion wave onto Cold, and then he finds the double flay to finish things off. Really well done in that trade. Also just talking about like what happened in the mid lane. I felt like New played very, very passive against
You don't get time, Clever. You don't get time, and you know that, brother. Shanks is level 4, doing a bit of damage to Aki. They've actually turned it around. OMG getting low, but they bring in Cold, who's only level 2. Dude, this Alistar is level 2, but at least changed the tides of what could have been a pick onto Aki.
OMG were going in pretty hard on that one, betting that the damage could come out. But this is why Udyr has lost a lot of power in the early game. That tone down onto Phoenix really hurt him. And let's watch this trade again. Aki actually goes the wrong way for a little bit. They trade flashes here, and just pay attention to Breathe. He's been roaming down since this gank started, and really smart by him. He gets the flawless duet first. That means reset onto Blade Surge, and he's just able to chase up with a lot of ease there. Of course, getting the mark does get him the reset on Q, and he's able to walk out with the minions.
Yeah, just kite it back as well. The first kill of the game went over to the Aurelia, who up in the top lane, you know, we didn't get a chance to talk about this closer, Clement, but we don't get to because WE is setting up in the bottom lane. Death Sentence connects as well. Zap on top, and suddenly Beisheng picks up his first kill of the game. WE, they're pissed off after game number 1.
They do not want to be the team known to falling down to OMG. So far, OMG has only been able to beat other teams of the same class. They've taken down Rogue Warriors a little bit earlier, and I believe TT, but a team like WE should not be losing to OMG, and they're out here to prove it.
They are. 3-0 to start us off. Look at the gold lead at the top of your screen, ladies and gentlemen. I apologize for your lovely ears for swearing. This is not a place for it, and I know that we have a family viewing experience, so I'll try to refrain in future. But we have so many exciting lanes to look at, and it's so hard for you to get a time to talk in, as we've already seen a lot of explosions happening in this early game. But I want to go back to the top lane, Clement, where we saw Breathe getting first blood, making that early roam. He was able to pick up a Vampiric Scepter, and we're still expecting Blade of the Ruined King as the first item on Irelia, like we've seen in the earlier patches. But I want to talk about the matchup and what you can expect now that they're getting close to hitting 6.
Yeah, so in this matchup, typically Aurelia is rather powerful early levels because she can get multiple Blade Surges into Conqueror stacks with Ionian Fervor. Very powerful trading potential. New basically gave up the entire first wave. New was like, you know what? My jungle is pathing towards the top side. I'm going to wait around, and that allowed Breathe to roam.
And New's now moving as well, but he's not moving in the right direction. Shanks picks up the kill, and I think he was coming down for Scuttle, Clement, but unfortunately, mid was not on the map.
Yeah, that was a bit of a greedy play from New. If your jungle and mid are trying to start this Drake, you really can't expect to just take Scuttle unharassed. Scuttle is absolutely massive this patch just because of all the nerfs to the other camps, and Scuttle was untouched. So Scuttle, in terms of relative value, is very high. So, you know, when that's up, you have to expect that you're going to run into a jungle there. He just runs into both the jungle and the mid laner, and I don't know, that was just kind of greedy coming in from New.
It was. I mean, it costs them a lot, right? Because they're losing tempo all across the map. And when we talked about the 1-3-1 from WE, a composition that gets ahead this early, right? When you can't match the solo laners getting into, what, like 14, 15 minutes even. Maybe I should be more specific and say, as we get towards the mid game, is going to be a really big issue for OMG. A kill goes over a piece, and you can see already starting to stack up that tier for someone like Shanks. We are expecting more components onto the Blade of the Ruined King from Breathe on his first back. And even in the bottom lane, Berserker Greaves picked up while OMG are trying to make a play towards Shanks. Realm Warp used. There's a lot of CC, though. He can't walk back on in. He didn't have the flash, and now Shanks will pay with his life.
Yeah, that was a great gank coming in from the side wave. I'm not sure about Shanks' idea of trying to stand in the Realm Warp. That was never going to work, given that there's Bear Stance and WQ combo that can stop the channel. So, it was kind of a weird play from Shanks. I felt like the correct play was definitely to try and flash away from it, but he went for the Realm Warp play, and that just...
Didn't have flash available, though, Clement. Was about
okay. Yeah, it was 2 seconds off, so really good timing coming in from W. I thought the flash might have been up, but this is just 2 seconds off away from him getting that.
That's what you call a perfect timer from OMG, right?
Yeah.
Like hitting it to a T, and a good punishment for what has been a punishment of an early game for them. We come back to live, and WE are hitting away at the Rift Herald, and this is a great setup, right? Again, Beisheng in a commanding position. The Hecarim we talked about has so far been a really good answer to something like an Udyr. And Beisheng already a level up in this deprived jungle experience environment with 20 CS to his name over Aki.
He's just farming up a Storm at this point, and this is what we've been talking about the lanes. If a jungler can actually snowball off the lanes, then it's actually a lot more worthwhile compared to counter jungling. if you're thinking about counter jungling on this patch, your levels are actually lower than before compared to every other single lane. So it's a lot more dangerous and the rewards are lower as well. So I think we will see a lot of jungles when they have advantages, they will go for laning pressure more than other than trying to counter.
What was your big brain telling me before we came in that it's an extra camp just to hit 6 now? Was that the experience difference?
Yeah, it used to be 48 CS, so what it meant was that you have 2 full clears and 2 scuttles. That will take you to level 6 to unleash your ultimates, and that was really good for things like Skarner or for Hecarim because they have big level 6 ultimates. And now it's a little bit slower. There's an extra camp you have to take, and a lot of times that camp is going to be cross-map. So what it means is that after your full clear, a lot of times actually going for a gank is not going to be punished by the opponent team. Like, it's not going to be matched by an opponent ultimate. Okay, goodbye, Missing.
Well, Missing's dead. There you go. There's the start of the burst we expected from Eric. And remember, this is a lot of pokers in the top lane. Meanwhile, I'm not sure it was Vanguard's Edge used. I'm at 144p.
Nope.
Breathe still has his ultimate, but New has used his.
Yeah, that was just a damage test coming in from Breathe, and looks like he was able to win that one. In the meantime, OMG are sitting on quite a big power spike. The serrated Dirk has finally come through.
As
in goes
teleport's coming through as well. Super Mega Death Rocket flies through. Dragon stolen by Wei Xiong, but now for the rest of the fight, OMG, yeah, put the ping up, but Aki still lost quite a lot as OMG have to kite back.
They give over the objective, and now Breathe is coming in. New still has his teleport, though, so I don't think they can go all in onto the bot lane tower.
We'll see. At the very least, Eric misses the poke. Breathe is level 8 here with the Vanguard's Edge still available. Herald placed down, and this is going to be a lot of gold share between Joel Monk and this top laner. Breathe backing away, which I think is the right choice, so that it does go to more core carries, as you can see here. First turret blood. Will it be responded up in that top lane? Methinks not, as Jack's only able to get 1 turret play.
Really far off from that trade. You don't really want a full extend trade against someone like Jinx, who actually gets extra attack speed after killing towers. Yeah. She has that sort of Tristana effect as well, but now Shanks is walking into an ambush.
He is walking into a Jax. Luckily, gets Phase Rush and walks away. Maybe just a little bit confident there, as Aki's going to run at him as well. Realm Warp is available with the flash too. Shanks might have to burn it to survive against the turret. Aki almost goes down, but Shanks survives again, burning his summoner.
Yep, no super mega death rocket just now, but you know, I don't think junglers actually know the timers, so he's not going to risk that one.
Sure.
He's going to run away as soon as possible. And now the question really is for OMG, can they actually find poke anytime soon? Because what it looks like right now is the side lanes, they're very far ahead of their opponents. Breathe got a bit of turret plating in the bot side with the Herald. He's up 600 gold compared to the Jax. I don't think that silent split push is going to go into Jax's favor right now. I still think Jax has better scaling and just a better kit against Aurelia, so we should expect that in the late game. But for now, Aurelia with the Blade of the Ruin King definitely reigns supreme in side lanes.
And let's also remember that both these top laners have... Oh, Breathe is dead. Okay. Not sure what happened, but yeah, our observer didn't expect that one, that's for sure. Did Wumi just solo kill him?
Yes, he did.
Oh my god. Zoe XD. Let's have a look at what happened. We'll get a replay in a second, because that was Blade of the Ruin King Aurelia versus a non-completed item from Zoe.
He took half his HP in the previous trade, so he was definitely within burst range. I just didn't expect him to still stay around and take it.
Have a look. Yeah, half health. And we'll see, because Wooming... Oh no. Oh no. Clement, he walked into that one. Let's be quite honest. He definitely wanted to gap close. But he kind of like, it's like seeing a bus on the street and thinking, do I run into that? And his answer that time was yes, as WE trying to make a play at the top side of the map to get something back after what we just saw.
Well, if he's running into a bus like that, I hope he gets back to his base on time. I mean, if you want to take the public transit system, that's not a terrible idea.
Right.
As we go back into OMG's top side. I do want to see how this actually works out for this. OMG are trying to funnel everything into New at this point. They know that this matchup is still beneficial for Jax, and their bottom lane at this point is rather far behind, 20 plus CS down. So they are just going to try and turbo farm up New into a 4-1.
As a dive in the mid lane. Meanwhile, Wooming goes golden. You can see Pei Xiong wanted something. They will get the turret plating because of it, but Wooming, really nice job on the stopwatch. Keeps him alive.
Yeah, and they don't actually get the full tower here. A good idea to just pressure into the bot side. Shake still has Realm Warp. and they have to respect that. So they're not going to continue this push. For now, I do want to see Uming start roaming around the map. I think he's fed enough to the point that he can find picks.
Chains of Corruption used. Missing flashes over the wall. They knew he was alone as soon as Missing put down the Dark Passage for himself as, yep, this keeps happening in the mid lane. Clement, I know you're not really getting a chance to talk here. Continue on with your points, sir.
Thank you so much for finding time in these hectic moments. But right now on the map, OMG's biggest win conditions is Uming. Uming has been known to be a Zoe main. This is his best champion. It's always banned against OMG. It's very, very rare to see this coming out. And with a 2-0-1 lead, this basically means that he can put pressure into the mid lane while helping his side lanes at the same time. So they should be looking to just fill in for picks right here and then going into the bottom side.
Watch for Wurming, trying to line up Beishang while Herald's at 2k. Zap going to come through soon as well. It is taken by Arky, but can they get towards the pit? It's cold. Gets a two-man engage, but remember, you want to see the poke come out as New is onto the wing. Disengaged from Jolmung and Missing. For OMG, they've separated them as Shanks only managed to get out alive. But the CC again, Cold flies through, and the range is flying down the range itself. Double kill over to Wurming. And just like a gun, there was shot to the head.
That was absolute disaster for W. I didn't think that they would take that full on with Breathe not being on the scene. He had no teleport from the bottom side, and W just overstayed their welcome. They were like, you know, we can stay here, we can try to harass, but OMG had the extra TP. It was a 5v4, they cut off the ramp, and everyone fell.
Well, cold on Alistar, right? Again. If you give him this pick, he will show us why he's been on this roster for 6 years. And even though OMG have not been successful in this split against WE, they've brought this game back. Gold might not be in their favor, but these fights certainly are. As we watch again, it was the Herald, the fight that WE were willing to take.
I definitely didn't think that W were going to go all the way, but just look at Cold and how massive he was in this team fight. Gets the WQ onto Jolmung and Jinx early, the exhaust goes down, and then New's angle coming in from the backline was massive. W still could have got out, but Cold said, no, you are staying, and this river is going to be your grave.
Brother, Chains of Corruption is what we didn't see off of camera. That was a three-man Chains of Corruption in a choke. No one could escape, like, to the point of dodging that 3-second window. What is it? 2-3-second window, I think, where it actually attaches. And now for OMG, after the play, they have the Herald. They're pushing up mid. Chains Corruption used again. Trouble from downtown. Puts him in a bit of trouble. Swimming doesn't care that Beishang's there. He'll steal the flash. They'll get the mid lane turret. And OMG now only down 2,000 gold after what happened earlier in the game is a reign of success, right? We've got first mythics coming through, and when you have a poke comp, that is 4-2 with the Zoe. That is 1-0-3 now with the Duskblade picked up. A very good point for OMG to now play from.
Yeah, this is going to get disgusting coming out from Umi. He's actually willing to take the side lanes right now, and we've seen what he can do to Breathe. Just 2 combos, not even full combos, is enough to kill the Aurelia at this point. We will see a pre-20-minute Horizon focus coming out from Umi here, and this is one of the big reasons that we saw the resurgence of Zoe post 11.3. The extra damage that you get on the item actually makes it quite worthwhile, and there's not a lot of good punish from WE. If WE want to try and do something about Umi, they pretty much have to full engage. Onslaught of Shadow has to go in and try to catch out her reposition back onto the portal jump, and that's a commitment that I think, unless Uming is completely unbacked by the rest of his team, is almost never going to happen.
So let's talk a little bit about WE and how they bring this game back to fruition, right? Because you talked about the late game scaling, and it does feel like they have to slow the pace down and, you know, use the dragons they've already picked up to maybe just farm up, delay, and stop giving OMG advantages.
So the weirdest thing about this current comp for me is that they don't actually have any side lane pressure. We talked about it earlier that, hey, there's still a bit of a gold lead. Used to be a bit of a gold lead on Breathe. It's not even there anymore. New actually just overtook that with the last team fight. And I don't think Rise can actually match up against Uming in the side lanes currently, not with this gold differential. So W are stuck in a bit of a difficult place. I think what they're scaling for right now is actually not their side lanes, but for Jinx. Mainly, they just want to hope that Jolmung does pack enough damage, and they can just stack armor onto Beishang. Wait until the phases where Beishang can find poke damage on the poke composition and just go all in.
Oh no, but Beishang goes for an engage. He wants to flank onto Eric, but he's been caught out. Onslaught of Shadows hits the backline, but not onto Eric. The hook blocked by Cold. Better poke coming through yet again, but somehow WE come out successful with Beishang only just surviving.
Yeah, that was interesting play coming out from them. They get the flank to work. I think that was super important in that play. And Cole just kind of took his eyes off the ball right there, missing finding a great death sense and just channeling all of their damage on the same target. I'm kind of surprised that actually worked out. For me, it was a very, very dangerous play coming into the side lanes, but you can see that OMG, they are a poke composition. If they don't get their rotations in before the 5v5, W still have a chance.
That's right. And if the poke only lands like one rotation of spells as well, then damage gets done, but for WE, not enough to impact the fight. And with the pick there, we now set ourselves up for expectations coming into this fight, right? We've got a dragon coming up in a minute. For OMG, definitely want to start getting these on the board because you do not want to give an Ocean Soul away to the comp that you said is going to be waiting for this Jinx to become more and more relevant, especially with side lanes. As Noose going up for the turret. He wanted to take down the turret, but maybe it was a ruse. Going into the ulti, Breathe going to reset off of the minions, and he is dead. Troll Bubble doesn't land, and Wooming trying to recover as Aki dodges the hook in the death sentence. Meanwhile, we're going widescreen here, ladies and gentlemen, as WE were looking for the bounce back onto OMG. Teleport burn in the bottom lane. Meanwhile, because Shanks was just pushing away.
Just a bit of miscoordination coming out from OMG. I think they actually had the right idea, but the timing was just off. Knew if he went in a little bit later, he would have had the help from the rest of the team. Instead, they have to burn summoners to actually defend against the bottom wave in the same time. So it's a bit of a waste for OMG. What I think they should be doing right now is actually embracing the mid lane poke, because this is not actually a poke board that's bad for them. If you look at Jomong right now, he doesn't have any sustained items. He will die actually quite easily if he gets tagged by this virus. So I'm actually totally welcoming a poke war if I'm OMG. All I need to be aware of is just not to let Death Sentence land on anyone else than Alistar, and just make sure that I don't go too far in front of the tower. This is WE trying to set up for the Drake, but I think it's actually quite punishable.
Realm Warp, where are they going? The observers, Fuzzled. They're going to the Baron. It was sneaky, but
that's not going to work.
A good ward. Okay, clever. You know, you gotta ruin the fun, but you're right. It doesn't work out. At the end of the day, WE force and OMG like, okay, we see you. We're going to take Dragon, and now they're waiting to play on the lack of vision.
Yeah, this is WE just trying to get a lucky pick here.
That poke comes through yet again, but a two-man flawless duet into the backline. The engage, the gap close onto OMG. Breathe has set this one up as New is stunned in place. Taken out poke again, but Breathe survives. It's only Beisheng who dies in the end versus 2 on OMG. We continue with the Monka W situation, just about who lands the skill shots, and that time around it was WE.
True. Umi still had a lot of damage left in his kit. I was surprised he didn't try to go for a little bit more right here, and in he goes.
Yeah, versus 2 though. Can he survive over the wall? There's the Blade Call, or rather the ultimate put down. Vanguard's Edge used to disengage. Wooming does not land the paddle star, which could have made a difference. Now after that, I mean, WE is straight on top of the Baron. Look, Aki reset here, Clement, and WE taking this down fast.
Yeah, but this is against the poke composition, so even if they don't land the steal onto Baron, they could very well take the members so low that there is no retreat.
But can they find the fight? Chains of Corruption coming through, Clement. 2K, Aki over the wall, doesn't have flash available. It's taken. Baron over to WE, now they want to get out, and New can't do a damn thing. Baron goes down, and OMG have to watch.
OMG definitely could have played that out a lot stronger. They missed Paddle Star plus the Piercing Arrow to come out from both of their poke champions.
Yep.
And that was a bit of a waste, honestly. That was super risky from WE. They definitely could have stayed them. We saw the Chains of Corruption coming out, but unfortunately unable to actually either pick off the carries or just seal the Baron outright.
This game feels like 2 steps forward and 2 steps back, right? Like, from what we've seen, WE, you know, getting caught out before, we saw OMG utilizing the poke that we've talked about so heavily, but one macro play, one play where WE pulled the trigger, and suddenly we're back to where we started.
A bit of disappointing play coming out from OMG. Definitely could have done better in that one. Just a little bit unfortunate, and unable to land the skill shots. And this is something about poke comps that I think people sometimes forget about. You don't always land a poke. That's the kind of a risk inherent to these compositions, and I feel like OMG can actually chance for these pokes just a little bit more. A lot of times WE are actually just presenting themselves in front of you, and you just have to find your mark. That's all.
Right. Someone comes to meet you, you meet them at the door. And OMG missing this poke, as you can see there, hurting them a lot. WE now with the Baron buff. Look at this push. You have a Jinx with 2.5 items, as the dive is a very real possibility. Goodbye to Eric. Yet again, WE making it work as the Vanguard's Edge flies out. Beisheng survives. And Wooming off of the side now has to get the hell out of there. He's over the wall, but Real Flash might have to be burned. He knows it. And WE threaten.
Beautiful collapse coming in from W. They use the Realm Orb into the back of tower. And very surprising, OMG actually showed their jungler and their side lane. New doesn't have a teleport. He's showing top side, and that's just an open invitation for WE. I'm so surprised that OMG actually just chose to show their side lanes like that. It was very easy for W to walk in with the 5-man, and now they're going in for more.
Yu's dead. Never mind. The rest of the team's like, brother, we don't want that. And OMG have fallen apart. You know, game 1 was so clinical, it was so clean. And this one has just been a scrap fiesta, man. Like, I don't know how to best coin this, Mr. Chu, but WE are taking every piece of metal that pops up on their doorstep.
I do want to remind everyone, this was with OMG with a pretty massive lead in the game. They actually wrestled back most control with a 4-for-0 Herald play, and then WE is coming back because just better teamfight plays and OMG not being able to find the poke or the damage onto Jomong.
Well, we're at a point where it looks like it could be a game number 3 here. Baron has been utilized well. That poke almost connecting to stop the back in the end. But for WE, they push up. They aren't able to break the base, but still, look at the gold lead here. 7,000 with the Jinx now, almost towards that 3rd item. I think it's also important to note that Breathe, with a couple of awesome plays, has pulled himself back into the game. 4-1 on this Irelia. 2 items, I believe, with the Sterix Gauge now picked up. And New at this point, he's just trying to catch back up in the game. He's been joining these fights, but Clement, there has been no side laning whatsoever here from the 2-item Jax. Pushes out the wave, and he joins in, trying to make the play here as we get towards Dragon.
He is going to walk over Beisheng.
He doesn't know. Oh, he doesn't know, does he?
Oh,
no, he doesn't.
I don't think he took damage.
Beisheng is so sneaky. We'll come in for the flank, Clement. Are you ready?
I'm ready.
Wait for it. Aki gonna get stunned up. At least zapped down. Beisheng there. Pony runs in. Wooming? No. He's gonna get Onslaught of Shadow, but he's still dead. And that's one pick to end all picks. Now for the Ocean Dragon, it's all WE.
Absolutely beautiful play from them. And Missing has been on point with these combos. We've been talking about why Thresh is paired with Jinx so much. We see it every single time in these team fights. The Flay, the Death Sense really helps you set up those Flame Chompers. And WE are the ones with massive engage. It's really smart how they're using all of their tools. OMG, as we talked about, this comp doesn't scale as well.
Yeah, and there goes Aki yet again. We just keep coming back to reality, and, you know, Aki, there goes gravity. It's WE with another big pick. Baron is alive in 1 minute 30, so you can't pick that up for now, but we've got a Salt Point coming. We've got WE who are just abusing these advantages, and now moving towards mid lane yet again. Look at the defense here. I don't know if OMG can survive as Eric too far forward. Chains of Corruption used. Beisheng is a massive threat, and Wooming, who is so far ahead right now, not doing too much to run into this tank. While they're losing inhibitor, Clement, look at the side lanes.
Jax is trying to claw himself back into the game any way he can. He doesn't actually do a lot of damage at this point. Didn't go for the Triforce, much more of a frontlining build. And I actually think this is quite decent from New in terms of how he wants to play out the game. He has fed carries already, so just going for a bit more of a tank build here. And honestly, they probably couldn't have defended that anyway, so I actually like this play from New. This is one of those instances where showing on the side lanes is actually fine.
Yeah, pulls back for Breathe especially, and we're getting towards the next dragon. I think that the point I want to mention here, Clement, is that Jomong now finally has the 3 items. You were talking about how when W were in an unfavorable position, they wanted to see this Jinx move into a point where they can carry that late game, right? You know, side lanes didn't work out at the start of the game, or at least moving into the mid game, but now Jomong is at that point where he's going to shred every member of OMG.
You also can't really stun lock him at this point. He does have the cleanse still up and running. It's going to be so hard for OMG past this one. I think every time we see OMG actually walk out of their base, we will see a straight engage from Beisheng. He can just pop the Onslaught of Shadows straight onto the enemy team. Breathe will follow up with the Dauntless Vanguard, and there's nothing you can do on OMG's side. Your backline is just going to melt.
And they have to always worry about where Beisheng is. He's been skirting around the vision so well in this game, playing the flanking angles, and for OMG, they're quite aware this time around, going through very carefully into their own jungle, clearing out some of the vision. WE trying to threaten for the Baron, but vision is there as New has come on in. He has his flash available if he needs it, but tends not to use his Chains of Corruption used defensively. Eric might be called out. He slowed down the Realm Warp on Sword of Shadows into the backline. Hecarim still doing a lot of damage as Eric is being bullied by a horse as the flawless duet comes through. The Vanguard's edge is the edge of glory for WE, and they want to drive this into a game number 3.
Nothing much that OMG could do at this point. 7k, just too much engaged potential. They tried to stop the onslaught from Jomung with the Chains of Corruption, but he cleanses it out and chases everyone down. Fans of WE, you should be ready to get excited.
You should, after we saw some of the most